Okay, I cannot be the only person that has been convinced by YouTube or social media algorithms to buy things you don't necessarily need. My father-in-law, poor man, is currently lugging my shame, poor life choices, whatever you want to call it, art supplies, from Florida to Costa Rica next week. And before he does that, I decided, why don't I actually use my last shame or art supplies they had in lug here to Costa Rica, and really test out what I like to use. This all started because I almost convinced myself to buy the large set of NeoColor twos. I had been seeing the 50th anniversary sets going around. So many different people use the NeoColor twos. And I thought I have to get the larger set. I need more colors. But in reality, I actually reached for my iCrayons, which I was convinced to buy at some point from YouTube. These right here, more often than the Caran D'ache, and that's not because I have a lot of colors where I don't have as many with the Caran D'ache. That's one of the reasons, but more often than not, it's because I just really enjoy using these. I like the way they work. For me, they work very similar to the Caran D'ache. They do have some differences, but in the way I use the wax pastels, the water-soluble pastels, these work great for me. I don't need other ones right now. And I want to show you the differences between them. So I have this set of 15 Caran D'ache, and then I have the same colors in the iCrayons. I won't swatch out the whole 50 of these, but I do have the same colors that come in this set. I'll swatch them out. I'll show you the differences between them, and then I'll show you how I use them in art. So we'll create this image, and I'll show you the differences between the Caran D'ache and the iCrayons. And then I'll show you how I actually use them together in a picture, which is what I do more often than not. I'm hardly ever using them separate. I like to use both of them together and create different effects with them. Okay, this is going to be sped up, otherwise it would have been like 30 minutes long, but I am going to talk through the colors I'm putting down, why I'm using two different swatches for each one, and my general thoughts on using them. So first, the eye crayons, what I like about them on this toothier paper is that they lay down nicer than the Caran D'ache for me. They go down smoother. I know you can't completely tell in this little swatching, but I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better in the images that I draw later on, in the pictures that I draw. And the Caran D'ache definitely excels at the water. So when you add water, these just work way better than the eye crowns. Now for the way I draw, it doesn't really bother me that you end up having a little bit of texture left over when you use water for the eye crowns, but the Caran D'ache, you can make them completely smooth once you use water, and a lot of people like that for the watercolor effect. I hardly ever have it so that I have no texture, so again, it doesn't bother me, but I want to point that out in case that is something that's really important to you. So the colors I've put down so far are the scarlet, vermilion, orange, yellow, and then the yellow green. And the first swatch you see is the eye crown, and the second on either side is the Caran D'ache. And in a little bit, we'll add water to them so you can see how that works. The only color of these that I didn't have the same, you'll see in a few minutes, are the cobalt blue and the light blue. The light blue is the eye crown and the cobalt blue is the Caran D'ache. I didn't have a cobalt blue in the eye crown. And that's these two colors right here. So these ones are a little bit different compared to everything else. All the other colors, when I laid them down, they were virtually the same. They do look different a little bit when they're when you add water to them, but when you're just laying them down, I could hardly tell the difference between either of them. So far we have emerald green, ultramarine, and then those two different blues that are somewhat similar, but not really. The other difference I noticed really were in the violet here, which I'm putting down now. The eye crown was a lot darker going down versus the Caran d'Ache, but when you water them down, that changes. So you'll see that in a little bit. And I apologize for any background noise. There's a very peppy bird in the background, letting me know that the rain just stopped. So if you hear that in the background, that's just a friendly little bird saying hello. Okay, and now I'm laying down purple and then turquoise blue, which I forgot to put next to the other blues, but laying that one down now. And then for the final row, we have ochre, then brown, black, and white. You won't be able to see the white, but I will swatch it on some black paper in a little bit. The brown for the Caran d'Ache, I've heard this complaint from other people as well. I do not like the way it lays down. I also don't love how it spreads out. It didn't do too bad in this swatching, but other times I've used it, I've had a hard time with it. It's like crumbly for some reason versus the other Caran d'Aches. I don't have as much trouble with them. They're a little bit crumbly, but not like the brown. I have a lot of problems with the brown color. And I don't have that problem with the iCrayons. Use some water and spread these out and see how they look. This is where really if you love the watercolor look and you don't want texture, you want to be able to spread it all out, this is where you're going to want to invest in the Caran d'Ache. They're also more vibrant overall when you spread them out. You don't have to work them as much as the eye crowns to spread them out, and also you still have a lot more pigment. You can see me putting down more vermilion here on the eye crown just to kind of test that out. Maybe I hadn't put enough down, but really the Caran d'Ache just it's way more pigmented than the others. I don't usually spread my water pastels out like my I don't usually spread my pastels out like this with water. So for me, having some of the texture, not having as vibrant color, it doesn't really bother me, but I wanted to point those things out because if that is really important to you, then you are going to want to probably invest in the Caran d'Ache versus the eye crowns. Now, not all of the colors are so pigmented versus the others. Some of these have really nice pigment in eye crown as well. But overall, the Caran d'Ache performs better as far as spreading out and getting a whole lot of pigment. Like this color just virtually disappears with the eye crown, whereas you have a lot of the color, even though they're a little bit different, with the Caran d'Ache. And then my violets here, the Caran d'Ache is still very vibrant, whereas the eye crowns kind of disappear. And I think this is really important because although the Caran d'Ache are more expensive, you do get a lot of value as far as using these as watercolors because you don't need very much to get a lot of pigment. That's not how I typically draw with them. I do like just keeping them a bit more like actual crayons versus watercolors. I'll spread them out a little. So that's why I tend to reach for the eye crayons more than the Caran d'Ache anyway. I like the less vibrant color. I don't mind that I can't spread it out as much, but I think it's important to note so that you can decide if that's something that's important to you. All right, these are the final colors here that I'm trying to spread out. The black actually did really good on both of these, so that's interesting. I try to spread the white here. You can't see it, but I will put it on black paper in just a moment. So I'll pick a few colors to put on black paper so you can see how both of them work on that. This is a softer paper, it's not as toothy, and I feel like both are pretty creamy and show up really well on this paper. All right, now we're going to just speed through this drawing real quick. And at the end, I'll share my thoughts on what I like about both of them. But you can see on one side is going to be the iCrayons, on the other is the Caran D'ache. I'll be drawing first with both similar colors, and then I will be spreading them out with water after I put the color down. This isn't how I typically draw, but that's how I'm going, or not draw. I do draw like this, but it's not how I typically work with the water-soluble pastels, but I'm going to show you the difference between the iCrayons and the Caran D'ache. So I'll put on some music and talk to you when I get to the end. You'll also see at some point I use some color pencils to just kind of enhance some of the colors. That's how I typically work, so I went ahead and kept that in as well. And yeah, see you in a few minutes. Okay, so honestly, I like both of these. I probably do like this one overall better because it did blend in a little bit more. And so normally when I use these, it doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to blend them so much like this, but these are much rougher lines than I probably would have liked for this one. You can still see it really heavily versus this that blends a bit more, and the same in a few other areas. But overall, I use both the Caran D'ache and the iCrayon interchangeably. You probably saw me throughout the video just trying to reach for either one and drawing with them because I'm so used to doing that. So I don't mind using either. Honestly, in this one, I liked the iCrayon more than the Caran D'ache. Some of that has to do with just this drawing's a little bit better than this one. This one's going to get a strange beak and some other things, but I actually liked the way this still has some of the texture versus this one that blended a bit more. I liked the textury look on this one. Whereas with this one, I like how it blended a bit more. So it really just depends on what I'm drawing and what I'm trying to, what effect I'm trying to achieve. And now I'll just show you a few more of the images where I use both the Caran D'ache and the iCrayons and how I use them together, and just give you some of my final thoughts on why I like to use both together and whether it's worth it to buy one or the other. This is another drawing I did where I used both the Caran D'ache and the iCrayons. So you can see they work great together. There's a little bit of gouache accents on this, but everything else is just the water-soluble pastels. And whatever colors I don't have in the Caran D'ache, I probably have in the iCrayon, and so I use them both all the time. Okay, I don't have video of me actually drawing this out. The majority of this was done with the iCrayons, but I did use the Caran D'ache wherever I wanted something to look like it was a bit more washed out. So looking a little bit more like watercolors versus the texture that you get from the water-soluble pastels in general. So like I said before, I don't tend to use them separately. I use them together more often than not. I have so many more colors with the iCrayons that I do use them for the majority of my drawings when I use the water-soluble pastels, but if I want something where it can actually look a little bit more like watercolor, as you saw when we were swatching them out, the Caran D'ache definitely excels at that. And so I will reach for those colors versus the iCrayons that I have. I can get the iCrayons pretty smooth, but they will have more texture left over like you saw in the swatching, which I don't mind. That's what I like in most of my drawings. But if I do want that kind of nicer look, this background here is mostly the Caran D'ache. It's also in a couple of places where I wanted highlights spread a little bit better. And yeah, overall, I like using them both together. I don't think I'll need any large sets of the Caran D'ache anytime soon. I'll probably pick a few of the open stock colors that I really like that I maybe don't have in the iCrayons. But for me, the investment at this time, I'm, putting investment into some other art supplies that I want versus trying to grab more Caran D'ache when maybe I wouldn't use them anyway. So yeah, hopefully that has helped you decide whether it's something worth investing for you or not. I know the Caran D'ache products are wonderful. They generally have really good light fastness. They are professional. I'm not selling my art anytime soon. So for me, just being able to play around, have a hobby, learning how to draw, the iCrayon is perfect. In the future, I may invest more in the Caran D'ache, but for now, this works great for me.